Hello and welcome back to another YouTube video. Today I'm going to be doing my 14.5 mid lane tier list. So if you enjoy the content, like, subscribe, and let's get into it. There weren't a huge amount of changes within the mid lane. Of course, I'm going to talk about Smolder and the Hawk Fix, as these are two pretty important things at the moment. The champion is in a very oppressive state, definitely overperforming in top and ADC. For mid lane, I wouldn't really recommend him as much. He's definitely a solid high B tier, low A tier option. If you're looking for someone with a lot of solid scaling, then I'd recommend something like an ASO, which has a bit of an easier time laning within the mid lane. Smolder's case, he can be a bit too vulnerable against a lot of the poke, which is performing at the higher end at the moment. The likes of Karma, Talia can be really obnoxious to play against. You can struggle against the likes of Kassadin. He can really easily blow you up before you have your items. Same with Ari. She's a really lethal assassin, AP, like major assassin at the moment, which is performing quite well. Yeah, these aren't great matchups for him. He can definitely struggle if he's not able to get the advantages he needs. So yeah, he's sat kind of like low A tier, high B tier. That's what I'd put him. On top of this, we saw buffs towards Veigar and Vex. So Veigar, in his case, moves up towards the B tier. I'd now start recommending him as being like a solid low elo option. When you get to mid elo, he's still not bad. Definitely, you can play him into a lot of things. The cage is a very valuable tool. There are build options as well. Luden's Companion, Roa, Seraphs. You can kind of opt into each one of these as like a first slot option. Later on to build, I know some people like Chevalier's. It can work quite nicely. He does very much value the movement speed. For rune choices, First Strike is for default. Electrocute is an option, and I would kind of recommend avoiding running Arcane Comet, as that doesn't tend to be performing so well at the moment. First Strike is a good rune for him, though. Allows him to get his items faster, quite valuable in that regard. You can also run things like Futures Market, which is a very strong rune. You can also opt into biscuits if you're not able to use futures market so effectively. That is also an option within that tree. But yeah, Veigar, solid beta option, doing a lot better now, but he has had some buffs. On Vex's side of things, she's going to move up to the A tier, kind of like a mid A tier option. You only really want to be playing Vex against the likes of Yasuo, Aurelia, Yone, Akali, Silas. Past this, it doesn't have a huge amount of matchups, which, well, I mean, she can win. She's not as dependent on her dash mechanic as like Malphite is into being like a full armor team, for example. But she does primarily want that as her like reasoning for pick. Of course, if you do main Vex, she's a solid option at the moment. A good like mage assassin. You are opting into things like Luden's Companion, into Storm Surge. That is a very valuable pairing of items. Medjay's is always a really good pickup on this champion, as she does want to be snowballing. That is her main like value within the game. But yeah, as like an anti-dash champion, make sure you're playing her into like Yone, Yasuo, Aurelia, Silas, Akali. These are the main options, but she's still a solid option past that, a good A tier pick. Twisted Fate got nerfed primarily for AD. That was kind of like his saving grace within the mid lane, as AP had been nerfed in the patch before. Now that AD has been nerfed, he's now an A tier option. He's fine. You can opt into Roa. That is a solid option on him. Chevalier's isn't too bad either. For AD side of things, I know people like the Static Shiv. That tends to be his most popular option within mid lane. And yeah, he's a fine option now. Nowhere near as oppressive as he used to be. Probably still holds a relatively high ban rate, but that will fizzle down as people come to realization that he has been nerfed. But yeah, he's a solid A tier pick. You can still play him and he still functions fine. Zac is going to stay in my S tier. So Zac got nerfed. Well, technically nerfed for lane roles. His W got nerfed in the later ranks, as that is his first max ability within lanes. Within jungle, it's E max first, which is why the W has been moved to 40 to 80 damage instead of 35 to 95. So for lane, you are not able to get like, you're not sat at like a strong value, and later on you are losing that value. So yeah, quite punishing there. Finds himself within the S tier though. He's still very strong, a great option in mid lane. Tends to be his best performant role, even if it is like one of his less preferred ones. Top lane and jungle tend to be significantly played a lot more. But yeah, still a solid tank option within the mid lane. Good S tier pick. Probably the best tank option in the mid lane, if anything. Cho'Gath and Sion are being buffed next patch though, and they should start seeing some decent play within mid, as they will be solid options, I imagine. moving on, so Brand is going to move down to the A tier. He received nerfs towards his ultimate. The damage and the cooldown went down. He got compensation buffs for jungle, as these were primarily focused towards mid lane Brand, as mid lane Brand is overperforming in low elo specifically. He's still a solid option in mid and high, so he can be played there. He has a very strong laning phase. It's quite hard to move him out of lane, as he does have kind of like infinite rotation of spells, as he gains mana back on minion kills if you do kill them with your passive on them. So yeah, he's a solid option. Strong build at the moment. Liandry, Rylai, both really good core options on him. Does a huge amount of damage. Great team fighter, great laner. He does tend to be telegraphed, which is why he falls off a bit more into high-low. But yeah, still a solid option in mid. Good A-tier pick. Smolder, I've talked about, is going to be my B tier. And Vladimir is the last one I want to talk about. So Vlad is going to move down to the A tier. He's just not performing as well as early on into the season, where he was really abusing Riftmaker. Liandry's were very strong items on him, and thus I'm dropping him down to the A tier. He's a solid pickup if you do want to play him, just not as S tier as a lot of the other picks here, which are performing very well at the moment. My S plus tier consists of Karma, Talia, and Kiana. These champions are very good at the moment. Karma, by far and away, is probably the premier mid pick at the moment. She's very popular, very valuable within most team comps. Her damage is very high with her Malignance build. This is like the Malignance Cosmic into Horizon Focus variant. Does a huge amount of damage. Very strong early, very strong mid. Tends to fall off towards the later game. But yeah, very oppressive, very good. Solid S plus pick. To the side of things, she got buffed not too long ago and tends to maintain a strong position in the mid lane. If you're picking her against comps where she has a lot of value, as most comps do have like high amounts of mobility these days, then her E is very valuable tool in that regard. Has really good wave clear, good damage, finds herself with the S plus tier. And in Kiana's case, the most oppressive assassin in the game at the moment. She does so much damage for the items that she can build, like Opportunity, Yomu's gives her lots of map mobility. She can opt into Hubris, Profane Hydra, Shoulder's Grudge, GA. All these options do work on her throughout the game. And yes, she is very powerful because of this. And her damage is very high, so solid S plus pick. In terms of the S tier, the main ones here, Kassadin, performing really well with Malignance getting buffed. You still want to be building Row on him as a first option, but he is doing very well. Ari got buffed in 14.4 and is performing really well off those buffs. It gave her a bit more durability, and they gave her a bit more damage on her Q, and she's thriving off this. And Anivia, also performing really well at the moment. I played a game with Anivia recently. Yes, she does a huge amount of damage. Her laning phase is actually really impressive at the moment. Her ult can be really valuable for roaming. Of course, you do want to be opting into like the Relentless Hunter, so you can get those roams to sides, as your wave clear is very strong. And yeah, these champions very good at the moment. Definitely recommend picking them up. They tend to maintain being very strong, especially Cassidy and Ari and Anivia. Don't tend to see them being very weak for very often, for very long durations. And yeah, those are my thoughts. So thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.